With so many podcasts out there, shows can get lost in the shuffle. That's why we implore you to check out Too Many Captains. You can find us at amoviepodcast.com.
5 unique takes on Hollywood movies and culture. Find us on Twitter at It's a Film Podcast.
Check our intellectual deep dives into theatrical films. Find us on Instagram at Too Many Captains Productions.
Unique takes on soundtracks. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Too Many Captains Productions.
Find us at amoviepodcast.com on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. And now, here comes a new episode of Collateral Cinema.
I'm Bo Maddox.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
This is Collateral Cinema.
With Collateral Gaming.
Welcome to Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters, where we focus on good movies, bad movies, and everything else in between in the world of cinema. We're podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420-friendly podcast. So whatever you have, be it dabs, blunts, bongs, joints, smoke it if you've got it. And this is our second to last episode of the season. Isn't that right, Ash?
Yeah, so it is. And it's also a collaboration special with Collateral Gaming, featuring yours truly.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we did our last collaboration, and it was on a video game movie as well, right?
Yeah, that was the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And again, it was just me and you, Bo. It's kind of like a representative from both.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. And today we are doing the original gangster of video game movies. We're talking Super Mario Brothers. This movie is great. I don't care what anybody says, right?
Fuck yeah. I mean, it's bad, but it's so bad it's good. It's kind of got that cult classic feeling. Doesn't really have much to do with Super Mario Brothers the game at all, but it's fun.
Well, there's lots of references to the game throughout. I mean, like, for instance, the Thwomp Industries, there's Bullet Bills in there, there's the Goombas. I mean, I think they even explain how Mario is able to jump, with the jumping rocket boots or whatever they're called.
Yeah, they kind of go out of their way to explain certain things. I mean, for instance, I mean, the whole movie, I mean, I guess the whole premise is that the Mushroom Kingdom is actually just an alternate version of Manhattan where humans evolved from dinosaurs instead of from apes. And I mean, I guess that kind of explains why Yoshi's there and how Bowser kind of has somewhat of a reptilian nature, but he's not even Bowser. He's his Japanese name, Koopa. So
yeah, that's kind of confusing. And there's a lot about this plot that can be a little confusing at times. It's kind of convoluted, admittedly.
And it uses Princess Daisy instead of Princess Peach, who in the games ends up being Luigi's love interest, like in this movie. But I don't think that was a thing until like the 64 era. So maybe this movie started it.
Yeah, this movie is kind of the beginning point of that particular relationship. But as far as the movie is concerned, I mean, it's pretty straightforward in its plot, I think. It's a pretty straightforward sci-fi kind of... I think on rental reviews, they called it Dino Punk because it has that Blade Runner cyberpunk quality, but, you know, dinosaurs. And the production of this movie, though, that's what interests me even more than the movie itself. In many ways, it's kind of even better than the movie.
Yeah, I've heard some shit. Some of it from you, actually.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on this in the last couple of days. I've pretty much kind of run myself through the ringer a little bit when it comes to Super Mario Brothers, the movie. And as it turns out, the early production of this movie is really interesting because at first Nintendo was really reluctant to even go into making a movie for any of their properties, really.
I'm surprised that they did. I mean, Nintendo is so tight with their properties usually, but there was this period in the 90s where they kind of let other people have rights, like they did the Philips CDI deal, and we know what spun out of that.
Yeah, Hotel Mario and those weird-ass Zelda games.
By the way, if you guys are interested, Collateral Gaming did do an episode on Zelda CDI. It was our very first 420 special. And you have to get high to play that shit.
And I remember the Let's Play that we did, and oh my God, I sat through most of that with you guys, and oh shit, that was painful to watch.
Oh my God. You were on that, but we were having a blast with it. And we were having a blast watching Super Mario Brothers. I mean, albeit separately, but I was having a blast.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were.
But do you know how much money they initially sold the rights to Leitmotiv for? Only $2 million.
Damn.
Just $2 million. That's all the rights to this movie was really worth to Nintendo, I guess. I mean, they ended up dumping about $40 million into the production and made maybe half that, which, I mean, cemented its status as a flop.
Wow.
But it was actually kind of surprising that a company like Leitmotiv would pick it up, because they were initially kind of an indie movie production company for the most part. I mean, I think
that kind of shines through, doesn't it? I mean, in the production quality of this?
Yeah, it does have kind of a real scrappy indie quality, not unlike the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which was an indie movie in its own right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, this was a pretty new company. It was pretty big for them to get this property. And, I mean, this was unprecedented. I mean, nobody had really attempted a video game movie up to this point. And
no, this was the first, I mean, direct adaptation of a video game, right? I mean, there were movies about video games like Cloak and Dagger and
War Games and The Wizard and everything.
And The Wizard, yeah.
Yeah, but this movie, I mean, the script went through a lot of different iterations. At one point, it was more of a fantasy movie, which admittedly would have probably fit the property a little better in some ways, maybe. Well, but it would have been a little too. It would have been a little too obvious, though.
I mean, this movie kind of occupies its own atmosphere. It's its own thing, and I think that they took what they could. I mean, back in the 90s, we had Super Mario World was the most recent Mario game that had come out. Hold on, check this out. Boom, gotcha. Super Mario World. Oh, you guys can't see this is audio. I just went in. I showed Bo on Skype my Super Mario World shirt. But
oh hell yeah, Super Mario World is actually one of my favorite games of all time. I will play that shit like any time. I have it on an emulator right now, and I've been playing that.
Fuck yeah, but there wasn't much to go on, right?
Not really. I mean, what is really the actual plot of the original Mario games? I mean, it's so much more about the actual platforming and the action of playing the levels themselves. Like that's kind of what Mario is at its very core. You know, it's about the gameplay more than anything. Later on, they started to really add a lot of plot and storyline to the games, but up till Super Mario World, or maybe even Super Mario 3, there wasn't much in the way of story other than, you know, Bowser/Koopa kidnaps a princess and Mario has to go and save her.
Well, exactly. And I mean, Super Mario World did have some more story qualities to it, but I really feel like Super Mario 64 was where that really kicked off. I mean, that was the debut of Princess Peach's name as Princess Peach rather than Princess Toadstool, which I think was a contributing factor as to why they didn't use Peach in this movie, because she would have been Princess Toadstool and that would have been weird. And then they were like, hey, look, there's this Princess Daisy from, Super Mario Advance.
Yeah, but you know what's weird? Don't they call the king?
No, Super Mario Land. That's Super Mario Land. My bad.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
on the Game Boy.
Yeah,
Yep.
on the Game Boy.
But don't they call the actual king that Koopa deposed in this movie King Toadstool, though? Lance Henriksen's character?
Do they? I don't remember that, but I do remember the reference to Mushroom Kingdom. He's a fungus and he's spread throughout, and it's his kingdom, so they hence Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, I think
that was kind of clever.
Yeah, I think Dennis Hopper actually brings that up somewhere at one point when he's actually talking to the king as a mushroom, as a fungus or whatever. The casting search for this movie was very interesting because initially they had Dustin Hoffman involved in the making of this movie.
Okay.
Let me say that again. They initially wanted to cast Dustin Hoffman in the role of Mario, which I don't know, that would have been really interesting because one of the original writers who made the first draft of this script, he was actually the guy who wrote Rain Man, which Dustin Hoffman is well known for his role in that movie. So that would have been an interesting way for those two people's careers to kind of come full circle at that point. But that didn't happen. And then after that, they wanted Danny DeVito in the role of Mario.
Danny DeVito, that would have been badass.
It would have been it would have been obvious, right? He would have made an amazing Mario.
Oh my God, Danny DeVito, I love your work.
I would go so far as to say that in the upcoming animated movie, maybe Danny DeVito needs to be the voice actor for Mario.
I don't know. Charles Martinet is the classic Mario voice. I kind of feel like that's necessary. But back in the 90s when Mario wasn't as well known with that voice, and he was kind of associated with like a Brooklyn voice, right? Like in the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Yeah.
Which had a live action segment.
Captain Lou Albano. And they almost had Tom Hanks as Mario in this movie. At that point, he was coming off of a couple of flops, though. That was the problem that Nintendo and the producers initially had. They got a little, leery of him because of that. I think it was The Burbs that was one of those movies.
Well, I'm glad that Bob Hoskins actually got in the role because I really feel like, even though he hated it the whole time, and I know, him and John Leguizamo were drinking scotch on set, right?
We'll talk a little more about some of the actual antics behind the scenes here in a little bit, but yeah, go on.
But yeah, even despite that, his performance does stand out, and I just love it for what it is. It's a lot of fun, and for whatever reason, John Leguizamo, kind of looks energetic in the role.
And it's really remarkable how well Hoskins and Leguizamo actually kind of gel throughout this movie. They have real chemistry.
They do have a kind of a chemistry, right? And you've got that big brother, little brother vibe.
Or is it father and son?
I think what he was trying to say was that Mario served as his father. I don't think that was meant to be taken literally. But I've seen people were kind of confused by the dialogue there, but
it's a little inarticulate, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's led to some confusion. But I think what they meant is yes, they are big brother and little brother, which in the games I believe they're actually twins, with Mario being the older twin. So kind of interesting how they had Luigi be a much younger brother, and he's the one that has the love interest. Mario is just kind of older, and Luigi doesn't even have a mustache. I thought that was interesting.
Well, a lot of that has to really do with Bob Hoskins actually being cast as Mario. It's just because he's a much older actor and everything. That's just the natural way that character relationship had to go. Yeah,
like I said, this movie occupies its own universe. It's its own thing. For Christ's sake, the movie opens with a cartoon monologue on the dinosaurs. The second I turned this on, I was kind of like, wait a second, I thought I was watching Super Mario Brothers. Why are they talking about dinosaurs?
Yeah, that first little bit of animation there, oh my God, that looks like it was straight up taken off of a goddamn 3DO or a CDI or something like that, right?
It's pretty bad. It's funny.
It's straight up old school 90s FMV, and it's maybe slightly better than what you would have seen on like the Sega Saturn, but I don't know. It's not the best quality. Totally potato all the way.
It's just the weirdest way to start a movie on Super Mario Brothers. I mean, like I said, it provides a couple explanations on some things. I mean, it's like they really went out of their way to create the game universe, but at the same time, it's so far apart. I mean, even it was Miyamoto who said that I think the problem with the movie, and Nintendo has largely been silent on it. I think like the CDI games, they just want us to forget it exists. But Miyamoto did come out and say something like, the major issue with this movie is that it tries too hard to reverse engineer what the games are, but at the same time, it's just so different. Like I said before, it just occupies its own universe. It's its own thing. What's funny is Nintendo has largely been silent on this, like with the CDI games. I think they kind of want us to forget that it exists, but Miyamoto did come out and say that he felt that the movie failed because it was too much like the games. And at first, the first time you hear that, you're kind of like, well, no, that's not the case. It's not like the games at all. That's the problem. But then you kind of understand what he meant is it tries so hard to occupy the game's universe and come up with a realistic explanation for it, while at the same time just taking so many liberties. It's just its own thing, and you appreciate it for that. I mean, I did.
Well, they kind of had to, because that goes back to how, very straightforward and bare bones the initial plot of the games are,
Right. I mean, there just wasn't a lot to work with. Super Mario World kind of started having more of a story, and this movie I think came out right before 64, actually. But
it came out right around the time that Super Mario World was coming out.
Was it? Okay, I thought maybe it was just a couple years before 64, but I could be wrong. But yeah, no, it's a very odd place in gaming history. It's like when you look back at the Zelda CDI games or Hotel Mario, and how much they don't resemble the games themselves. And then you remember, well, the world was just slowly started building there. There wasn't a lot to work with. So, they go off on their own tangents. And this movie is the same. It's just such an interesting part of, I think, video game and cinema history in that aspect. I mean, it certainly is one of a kind. It was the first to do something.
Yeah, but I mean, back to the casting, you have Samantha Mathis, who was the voice of the fairy in Ferngully, and I believe that she was in American Psycho as well. And you have Dennis Hopper as the immortal Koopa. And what's interesting about Dennis Hopper's role is that it's pretty much Donald Trump that they're ragging on here. Like that's kind of confirmed.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, I'm just trying to think of Dennis Hopper. I mean, he was in Rebel Without a Cause, and then now this.
Yeah, Easy Rider. Don't forget that. Or
Easy
Speed.
Rider, yeah.
Fucking Speed, man.
It is a really odd cast, just kind of all together. And what's funny is most of all of them, I think, had a lot of shit to talk afterwards.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that here in a little bit, but Dennis Hopper's performance was kind of all over the place. There'd be moments where he's just really, really hamming it up, and then there's moments where he's really serious and just kind of creepy. Like, there's even kind of, I swear to you, there's kind of a grab her by the pussy moment in that movie when he first meets Daisy.
Yes. Oh my God. You're right. I mean, there's totally an analog to Trump there. I mean, it's not even like subtle if you really think about it.
Yeah, but what's also interesting is that Dennis Hopper was told that his character evolved straight up from a T-Rex, so you see some of those mannerisms in his performance, like, for instance, how he always has his arms really, really up close to his body. I don't know if you noticed that.
That's interesting. No, I hadn't. What's funny is the moment when they devolve him, but just barely, so he doesn't actually start. But it's supposed to indicate that he's like partially devolved, but I don't know if you really see that. I mean, is he supposed to be just more erratic, or I mean, his eyes flash reptilian for a second and then that's it.
Yeah, something happened to him when he went into the de-evolver. I'm not really sure what, but it may have brought out his more reptilian aspects a little bit. Now, another interesting thing about this movie is its actual look. And it's been compared to Blade Runner, which is not so coincidental, because the art director for Blade Runner actually designed everything in this movie, especially the set that would be built in an abandoned cement factory.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I can kind of see that.
And it's really impressive art design, and it really does kind of bring up a cyberpunk vibe. Although I will bring up, just like what Rental Reviews on Cinemassacre said, it was more like dino punk.
That's an apt term to describe it. I like that, dino punk. I mean, it definitely fits what, the kind of setting that they were going for, and it's certainly unique, to say the least.
But needless to say, there was no Ridley Scott on directing this movie. Instead, you had directors Rocky Morton and Annabel Jenkal. They're kind of noteworthy for doing a movie back in the 90s called Dead or Alive. I think it had Meg Ryan and John Cusack, I want to say. I might be wrong there, but they also were responsible for a little property back in the late 80s, early 90s by the name of Max Headroom, which was this actor that was made to look like a CGI computer program that was animated and everything.
Okay.
But it wasn't necessarily CGI. It was more of a camera and practical effect, that trick that kind of made him look very digitized and computerized and everything. But what
did you think about the effects in this movie? I mean, it was mostly practical. There wasn't a lot of
the effects are actually they're actually kind of stunning in this movie, especially when you look at the character model for Yoshi. That's some really impressive practical effect work right there. And the CGI, while it's kind of dated by this point, it's really not too bad looking at all, honestly.
I don't think the movie relies on it very much. I mean, it's there, but it's not. The practical effects really take the stage, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there were actual explosions. It's like the car chases were actually very well directed and very well choreographed as far as the stunt work is concerned. Like, there's that one moment where Mario and Luigi is in the cop car, and the cop car goes on top of the other car, and that dude is just driving kind of oblivious that there's a fucking car on top of him.
Fuck yeah.
It's like, that was funny shit. But these directors, Rocky Morton and Annabel Jenkal, they did not endear themselves well to anybody in this production at all. Like, Dennis Hopper had almost a 2-hour-long tirade against these two because of something that they did on set that just irked him so badly. Like, I mean, they pissed him off big time.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. You can kind of tell there's an edge to the performances. It kind of contributes to the charm in a way. But you can kind of tell that nobody really wants to be there, but they're there and they're doing it.
Well, this contention between the directors and the actors and the crew and everything was so bad that the cast and crew started showing up on set with T-shirts that straight up openly mocked the directors. I mean, this was a husband and wife team. And what was infuriating about them is that they constantly rewrote the script on the fly, like almost daily.
Well, no wonder the script is the way that it is. I mean, maybe it actually resembled the games more originally and then just went through so many rewrites.
Yeah. Apparently, there were so many rewrites that Hoskins and Hopper, they both completely admit that they just stopped memorizing their lines because what was the fucking point? It was going to be rewritten. You know, what were you going to fucking do?
So is a lot of that improv or?
No, it's not improv. It's just rewritten bullshit on the fly. Because, I mean, this script already went through a bunch of different iterations and was doctored up by at least 2 or 3 teams of writers, at the very least. And, I mean, the directors kind of fucked it up so bad. One of these writing teams just straight up walked off the movie and said, nah, fuck this, take our names off of this. They were that rankled by it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't envy what the cast and the crew had to go through in the making of this. It's just such a, it's kind of like The Room. I mean, the making of the movie really contributes to a sense of what the movie means.
That's an apt analogy, I think. And the other interesting conflict was between the actual producers of the movie and the studio execs at Leitmotif. I mean, the studio execs wanted a much happier and much lighter film than what the directors and the producers were going for. The producers, they wanted something a little darker. I mean, that's actually what they pitched to Nintendo.
That makes sense. I mean, the games have a much lighter tone, and Nintendo definitely would have approved a tone that was more in line with the games. Because as far as I know, Nintendo's very stringent with their properties. Like, if they do give someone permission to use them, it's like, you need to do it our way. But maybe they've become that way more so as a result of this period of their history.
It's pretty much accepted consensus that that's what it is, honestly, in the gaming and Nintendo fandom and everything.
I remember just using Bowser and Wreck-It Ralph. There was a lot of rules. There were a lot of rules that they had to follow just in the way that Bowser moves and expresses himself.
Yeah, it still has to fit within the context of the character. And I would say that Dennis Hopper kind of fits within that context as well. His performance is very, like we said, reptilian, very, kind of cringily like Donald Trump. I mean, it really adds to the overall tone of the movie in so many ways.
It does, and it's so odd because he doesn't resemble the character in any other way. I mean, he's just a straight up human dude. I mean, what does that have to do with Bowser? His name isn't even Bowser, which American audiences were more familiar with.
It's the Japanese name, right? That's Koopa?
Yeah, Koopa, King Koopa, because, he's the king of the Koopa, which is the race.
Yeah, that's right.
And in Japan, he's still just called Koopa.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But how about the look of the Goombas? That's kind of interesting, right? I mean,
it's almost like they went for the opposite of what a Goomba looks like. What was going through their minds? I mean, the design is awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. It's not Goombas, but it's just this. It's adorable.
Well, there is also the possibility that Goombas kind of look like tiny little dicks, and they didn't want to replicate that. Maybe. I mean,
they're mushrooms. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Hey, that's a commonly accepted phallic symbol, bro. Come on now.
That's true.
That's why. That's why
I've
mushroom
been told
head.
that my dick looks like a mushroom, actually. So.
Oh my god, this motherfucker.
Somebody told me that. I was like, how am I supposed to feel about this? Is that a compliment or?
I don't know, man. It's whatever. Damn it. But anyway, the actual set in the cement factory was pretty fucking impressive. Lots of great practical effects. The fungus looked really, really interesting. It looked really cool on set. But they were having some serious issues with air conditioning on this set. It was sweltering.
Wow. I mean, that's another thing they have in common with the set of The Room, right?
Yeah, that's kind of weird, right?
Right. I mean, it just has to do with, like, I guess, low budget and then directors who don't give a shit about their
low budget. It was $40 million. It was $40 million. What are you talking low budget?
Well, what I mean to say was a low budget was spent on the well-being of.
Yeah.
and I don't know where that budget really went because, I mean, the movie just, it like I said before, it kind of has a indie quality feel to it. So I guess that the budget went to just the owning the rights of the characters more than anything.
Practically.
So when I say low budget, I mean, like, I don't feel like a lot of the budget was actually spent on the production. I think I think they kind of probably had to stretch things because the properties were so expensive just to use.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And I mean, it must have been so miserable on set. I mean, the heat must have just compounded everything else. Like, especially how angry everybody was at the directors and at the studio execs for meddling and everything. Like, and all the rewrites and everything. Like, I can only imagine just the aura on set. I mean, fuck. You can almost kind of feel how oppressive it is just watching the movie. I mean, just looking at all the actors and how they look like they just have a sheen of sweat on them at all times.
Where are we? I got a feeling we're not in Brooklyn no more.
They're brothers. They're plumbers.
Oh no. Luigi!
They're on the trail of a kidnapped princess and a mystical meteorite.
It's incredible!
That gives anyone who possesses it the power to rule the universe.
Get me the rock! Come and get it, lizard breath!
Now, they must rescue the princess.
Alien species escaping.
And make it safely back.
Later, alligator.
To our world.
Are you alright?
Before time runs out.
Shoot him! Get him! Get him!
Super Mario Brothers. This ain't no game.
Well, I mean, it kind of works. I mean, they look like they're, actually participating in the events that are on screen. I mean, it's better than the movie actresses that, their makeup and their hair looks perfect all the time.
Yeah, and not to mention that it contributes a little more to the real dystopian angle of Dino Hatton.
I think that's what I was kind of, thinking in my mind when I said that too, is it does give you that dystopian feel.
Yeah, it just kind of compounds it a little bit.
Yeah.
But because of how miserable everybody was on set, everybody kind of coped with it in their own manner. Like, for instance, there was that whole tirade that Dennis Hopper had with the directors. He finally said, "Is like, look, I'm going to do the scene as it's written and everything. I just needed to fucking get all of that off of my back, just get it all out there, all that frustration and everything." But it led to Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo drinking a whole hell of a lot on set. Like, in between
That's
takes,
awesome.
pretty much. They were just fucking downing scotch. And there are several scenes in this movie where you could kind of tell they're a little drunk.
You could tell, but it contributes to the personalities of the characters as they're portrayed in the movie. I mean, this movie is an accidental gem through and through.
It really is. And it actually led to a little bit of an injury on set where Leguizamo and Hoskins were driving the Mario Brothers van. I think that they were doing that scene where they were rushing to the restaurant to do a job, and Scapelli beats them to it. Apparently what happened is Leguizamo kind of hit the brakes a little too hard, and a sliding van door just came down on Bob Hoskins' hand and fucked it up.
Shit!
And if you look closely at certain scenes, you can see his cast painted pink to kind of not stand out so much, but it still kind of stands out a little. So
that's funny. I mean, I hadn't noticed, but I'm sure if I was looking for it, I mean, it probably would stick out like a sore thumb.
Oh no, it even looks a little swollen as well. So
wow.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, that just led to all types of malfeasance on set. But there was also a pretty infamous incident that was recounted by Leguizamo, where apparently one of the directors, Rocky Morton, he thought that the Goombas didn't really look as grungy or as dirty costume-wise as he liked. So apparently what he did is he went and grabbed a cup of coffee that was just kind of within his reach somewhere, and apparently it was still really, really hot, and he just straight pours it on the actor in this fucking suit, and the suit is not...
No shit.
Yeah, the suit is not completely sealed off or anything, so this dude, the actor in the suit, his neck is getting burned, straight up getting scalded. Allegedly, what Leguizamo said, this was the director Rocky Morton. He retorted after that was, he's just an extra. We can get another one.
What? Holy shit.
Now, Rocky Morton, he kind of denies that this happened. He said, or at least he denies that it happened the way Leguizamo said so. He says that it was completely an accident. He didn't say what Leguizamo said he said, and he immediately tried to get some cool water to, cool down the burns. So, I mean, I don't know who's to be believed a little more in that situation, but I mean, it's very noteworthy, and it just contributes to the overall craziness that was the production of this movie.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's crazy. I mean, hot coffee really does burn. I mean, you remember like the McDonald's court case.
Yeah, and
people make fun of it, but
that was actually more serious than previously thought. That woman suffered some very serious third-degree burns. It was actually not a good thing that happened to her, and she was right to sue them. But anyway, this production was so catastrophic that and the directors had burned so many bridges on set with the producers and the studio that they were initially locked out of the editing room, which, from what I understand, happens quite a bit. I mean, it happens more often than not, but this one kind of stung for them because they had made this whole stink about rewriting everything, and they wanted to say in the final cut, and the producers didn't want that, so they had to go to the Directors Guild and actually kind of force the producers to let them have a say in the final cut.
That's fucking awesome that they were locked in the room. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's just so ridiculous, man. I mean, I understand that these people, I mean, this was their first real movie that they were shooting. But I mean, I remember Dennis Hopper saying something to the effect of their arrogance was mistaken for talent or something like that. So, I mean, they really managed to make everybody hate them. So, and there were definitely
pissed everyone off.
Yeah, there were consequences for that. And like we said earlier, this movie only made back half of its budget. It made $20 million off of a $40 million budget.
And it was hyped up. I remember hearing that. Like, everybody was really excited. It was like the first video game movie, and then it came out, and it just wasn't talked about after that. And there's a reason for that. It's one of those things that like a lot of people today aren't really aware of unless you remember it happening.
And
I mean, you tell a kid today, like, there was a Super Mario Brothers live action movie, they're going to be like, what? There was a what?
Well, yeah, I mean, this movie is kind of hard to find. I mean, honestly, I tried looking for this movie and I couldn't find it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why. I couldn't find it anywhere. It's not even on most streaming sites other than, the illegal ones. So
make of that what you will, audience.
Yeah, make of that what you will. Wink, wink, I guess. But let's go ahead and start concluding by discussing the legacy of this movie. I mean, it left a real impact when it came to the genre of video game movies. This is the first one.
I mean, it set a precedent, right? I mean, all video game movies afterwards have been pretty bad.
And it sucks because this movie is really not that bad. It's just maybe in some way, if it would have been released without the Mario name attached to it, it could have been an interesting standalone movie, not unlike, say, The Fifth Element.
That's kind of what, the feeling that I got too. I mean, the movie in and of itself is entertaining. I mean, I think it achieved what it was trying to achieve. It's just, it doesn't feel anything like a Mario movie, and it becomes laughable in that sense.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of detail put into the actual world building, you know?
Oh, there's a lot of references made. I like the little babam that has the fucking the Reeboks.
Yeah, the interesting thing about
Dennis Hopper say the word babam.
And what's interesting about that is that's one of the most faithful adaptations of anything from the game period. It's not even a real character.
Yeah.
Probably next to Yoshi even. Yoshi's kind of pretty much exactly like he would be in the game.
I mean, yeah, Yoshi looks like a little dinosaur, and that's what Yoshi is. So, I mean, if you were to take the, Yoshi character and put it a realistic version of it, I mean, that's what it would look like. So I'll give it that. I mean, it's exactly what it is.
hell, he even had his extending tongue and everything.
Yeah.
And this movie has become a cult classic. It's actually been a very popular movie on the YouTube review circuit. Pretty much everybody's done a video on it,
Now Collateral Cinema has too.
Yeah. There's Cinemassacre. They've done it. A Nostalgia Critic.
I watched both of those. The Nostalgia Critic and the Cinemassacre reviews.
And the Gaming Historian, he did a good one. And this actually led to the establishment of a website called the Super Mario Brothers Movie Archive. I mean, and this is a really cool website because it pretty much breaks down everything that is the Super Mario Brothers movie, and just it has like all the old school original drafts of the script. It has info on all of the behind the scenes antics that happen, like even deeper info than previously known. And it's definitely a really good website, and we just want to go ahead and give it a little plug because they did kind of retweet our promos of this episode. So yeah, back at y'all guys.
I'm gonna check that out because that sounds really cool. Although I gotta know who is it that cares so much about the Super Mario Brothers movie to even compile that. I want to know who you are.
But I mean, that's just a testament to how deep this movie actually is. I mean, just that somebody could actually make not even so much a wiki, but a fucking archive of everything related to this movie. I mean, it's pretty impressive, really.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think it's fucking awesome.
Now, the directors, they were blacklisted after this. They have not made another movie. They burn bridges and burn them hard. I mean, you don't piss off a legend like Dennis fucking Hopper and get away with it. Let's face it.
No, fuck that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard their names. I didn't even know their names were attached to the movie. The movie speaks for itself. It's just the Super Mario Brothers movie. It just is.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that is because of how unprofessional, admittedly, they approached this movie. I mean, they were even straight up contradicting each other on set. It was ridiculous.
I mean, it's like a very good reason why a husband and wife probably shouldn't make a movie together. It just sounds like a bad idea. I mean, this is coming from someone who's been married.
Yeah. Now, Bob Hoskins and Dennis Hopper, they did not have kind words for this movie in retrospect. I mean, Bob Hoskins straight up said this is the worst thing he ever worked on, unequivocally, like without even hesitating. When he was asked about it, is like, what was the worst movie you ever made? Super Mario Brothers. It's like, what is the one role that you regret the most? It's like Super Mario Brothers. It's like, I mean, he hated this fucking movie.
Yeah, I mean, he said that multiple times. I remember I've seen multiple quotes of him saying that Super Mario Brothers was the worst thing he ever did. But like with Zombo, I heard actually more recently did have something positive to say, didn't he?
Yeah, he is actually very proud of the legacy of this movie, and he says that this was actually a very instrumental movie in furthering his own career as a comedian and an actor.
I mean he later did Ice Age.
He did Spawn later on, of course. He did The Pest.
Yeah, he was in Spawn. I almost forgot about that. We did that just a few episodes ago.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Leguizamo finally kind of comes back around on this show again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, he's actually very accepting of this movie, a lot more than his co-stars. And Dennis Hopper, he has, had a little anecdote on the Conan O'Brien show back in the day where he said that his son asked him, is like, hey, Dad, I know that you're a really great actor, but why did you play that terrible Koopa character in that Super Mario Brothers movie? And Hopper said is like, so I could afford to buy you some shoes. And his son, he was 6 years old at the time, was like, Dad, I didn't need shoes that bad. I'm paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing hardcore there, but I mean, that pretty much says it all.
Yeah, no, it really does. It's such a odd thing. I mean, it really is. And I think at the time, I mean, I don't know if anyone could have loved this movie when it came out, but you know, it's one of those things that you watch now, and I mean, obviously, there's some shady shit that happened on set, but we're kind of glad that the cast and crew suffered through what they did because I mean, it produced this.
Yeah. One thing I didn't really find out was what Samantha Mathis have to say about this. I mean, I guess she's been kind of silent about it. Maybe she's trying to forget about it, just as much as everybody else.
I think she just wants to pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah. But you know, there's an interesting connection to Disney here. This was released on the Hollywood Pictures imprint, and that was owned by Disney at the time.
Oh, okay.
And what's interesting is that one of the first assistant directors was Louis D'Esposito, who is one of the co-presidents of Marvel Studios right now.
I was about to say his name is on every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I mean, go look in the credits of any MCU movie, you will see Luis D'Esposito on there.
And it's interesting that he started on something like this, which has that really fantastical yet dark kind of comic book edge to it, even though it's based off of a video game.
Oh my God, Dakota would be so excited about that because he was the one that pointed out that to me first. And he was actually the one that suggested this movie. So
yeah,
shout out to Dakota. We miss you.
Yeah, I wonder where he's at, Dakota. If you're listening, fucking shit.
Oh wow! Hopefully we'll get it. We'll get him for our season finale.
Yeah, hopefully, man. Hopefully, but yeah, this is an unprecedented film. This set the bar for a genre that, you know, a lot of people say that there's a curse on video game movies, but if you really look at the box office returns for a lot of the more recent video game movies, that curse has been shaken off a long time ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, and very recently, we're actually kind of seeing video game movies that are actually kind of good for the first time, and we're exploring TV shows, high budget TV shows like The Witcher. So, I mean, there was a curse for quite a while, though. And it's odd that this movie could make an example of that and be so poorly received, and we still got really bad video game movies afterward. But like we said, it set a precedent.
I mean, yeah. I mean, even Uwe Boll made his career kind of off of video game movies initially. You know, Blood Rain, Postal, House of the Dead. This is actually like the third video game movie we've done on this podcast, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. We did House of the Dead, we did Sonic, and now we're doing Super Mario Brothers. And we've got some things planned for next season on both podcasts.
Yeah, we'll announce that here in a second. But I guess we can go ahead and start getting into some more final thoughts here. What are your overall final thoughts on this movie, Ash?
Well, as the penultimate season 3 Collateral Cinema episode, I'm actually kind of glad that we visited this close to the end of the season. I was actually looking forward to it. I'd never seen the Super Mario Brothers movie before. I'd heard of it. I knew it was considered bad. I didn't have high expectations, but it honestly surpassed my expectations. I honestly say that as a standalone movie, not connected to Mario, it could actually be something kind of good. Like you said, more of a Fifth Element vibe. As a Mario movie, it's pretty bad, but it's also just an underrated gem, I think. And I think a lot of people are starting to, see that in the age of the internet. And, with websites like the Super Mario Brothers Archive, I mean, it's a good time to look back at things like this, especially, with everything that's going on right now in the world, just to sit back and enjoy not dying, enjoy. Sorry, it was my friend in the background. But yeah, it was actually kind of fun to sit back and watch this. I was home alone on a Saturday, and I just kind of put it on, and I was having a blast with it, and I had a blast talking about it.
Yeah, it's an excellent late night movie for me, honestly.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Just one of those movies like you're hanging out with the homies. You just need something that's, It's really,
Something to
really
throw
fun.
in the background.
Throw it in the background, or even if you want to really get into it, you can get into it and have a good time.
Yeah.
So I mean,
definitely a good movie to get blazed to.
yeah. I mean, I guess these are my final thoughts on the movie. I think that the world building is actually far better than people make it out to be. I mean, it actually even references the game a little deeper than people realize. I mean, I think even the Shy Guys kind of make an appearance if you really look for them. And I mean, I like the practical effects, especially on the Goombas and also on Yoshi. I think that some of the CGI is actually not bad for its time. It's not utilized too incredibly much in this movie, but I mean, it looks good for its time, except for maybe the FMV opening. I mean, I don't know what the fuck that was. Like I said, that straight up looks like a Philips CDI quality FMV video. It's terrible, but and something that I forgot to mention is that narrator, that's Dan Castellaneta. That is Homer Simpson himself.
Oh shit!
Yeah, can you believe that?
I wouldn't have known it if you hadn't said it, but that makes sense.
If you listen very, very closely, you can immediately tell that that's Castellaneta. I mean, every voice actor kind of has a little tell in their voice where you can kind of know who it is, like your Tress MacNeils, Maurice LaMarche, Billy West, and everything. But I mean, you can pretty much tell that immediately. And also, Frank Welker is the voice of the Goombas in this movie, and I think also of Yoshi.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty much a stalwart when it comes to voice acting, especially for animals that don't really have, vocalizations that are, English or anything like that. But anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Since this is a Collateral Gaming, Collateral Cinema collaboration, we'll go ahead and let you do your plug first, Ash. What's coming up on Collateral Gaming?
That's right, bitches. We are going to be doing, we at the same time, because we were actually recorded this pretty much in the same day. So these will be releasing around the same time, which is not our normal schedule, but look forward to Spyro Reignited Trilogy. If you're listening to this, then you should also be able to look for that. You can find Collateral Gaming wherever you find Collateral Cinema. Next, we'll be doing our penultimate episode, and it's going to be a bad video game. We're going to be talking about Action 52, followed by our season finale on Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And we will be doing some more collaborations with Collateral Cinema. We are going to be talking about another video game movie, and I think we're going to be talking about both adaptations. We're still kind of in the works with that. And also we're going to be doing a collaboration on the game side as well this time, where we'll talk about the movie and then the video game and then another movie off of it, hopefully. So we'll see what happens. But stay tuned. I plan to get caught up with a lot of our other content, like our Let's Plays. We plan to get our streaming set up. And like Collateral Cinema, at the moment, we are practicing social distancing. I mean, I guess you guys noticed this episode, we Skyped it in. So it's not as good audio quality, but it is what it is. We're being safe. So
yeah, for sure.
Cases are on the rise in Texas.
Yeah, no shit. But for Collateral Cinema, we are going to be going into our season finale, and that's going to be Best Friends, starring Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much going to round out the official Wiseau trilogy with the Disaster Artist in the Room involving Collateral Cinema. So it's almost like, as far as the movies are concerned, it's almost the end of an era, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, what else can we talk about The Room related? The Room porn parody?
We could, I guess.
I mean, we got to do something Wiseau related.
Or The Neighbors, his sitcom.
We could do The Neighbors. I mean, it's a TV show, but I feel like we could do a TV show once in a while.
Something like that, yeah. But yeah,
at least until we spin out the TV podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, look for our episode on Best Friends. That's going to be our season finale. Season 4 will be coming later on this year, around October. We'll probably start off with our Halloween episode.
Yeah, and Collateral Gaming Season 3 will be starting around the same time. Or I think we may be starting a month earlier.
Yeah.
In September. But.
Oh, yeah, and also we are going to have Captain Nostalgia from Victims and Villains on the season finale, so look for that. We liked having him on the Christmas episode, and it's going to be nice to have him on the Best Friends episode.
Yeah, we recently did a collab with Captain Nostalgia as well on the Victims and Villains podcast. I think that should be coming out this month. We talked about Majora's Mask.
Excellent.
And it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. And also, down the line, we should be making an appearance on the Movie Journey Podcast's Pod versus Pod series, which is kind of a movie trivia thing. So look for that coming very soon. And on Collateral Cinema Director's Cut, which should be coming this next Monday, I believe Robin and I might be talking about the Trailer Park Boys movies, which is really, really awesome. It's a great series, and the movies are fantastic. So look for that. And I guess we can go ahead and start wrapping things up. You can find Collateral Cinema on all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Find us on Patreon, become a patron, starts at $1. You'll get film commentaries and the like. Look for us on YouTube, Chill Lover Radio, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Same with Collateral Gaming, right?
Same goes for Collateral Gaming. Everywhere you listen to Collateral Cinema, we're there too. We're trying to keep up as well. We've got the Collateral Gaming bonus round episode. This is our analog to Collateral Cinema Director's Cut. I know I'm behind on those, but I'm running a tally, and I'm planning to just maybe pop them all out at once and have them out there. So we'll see what happens. Our next episode should be a video game recommendations episode.
Awesome.
So.
All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm Bo Maddox.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And this was Collateral Cinema. Stay tuned for our season finale. Check you later, everybody.
And this was Collateral Gaming. See you later.
Collateral Cinema is an L Company production. All music and movie clips are owned by the respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.